Is Scarlet Witch strong enough to overwhelm the impossible power of Sentry? What about the Void? Can she manipulate Bob's mind, or would she get overtaken by the darkness? Today, I'm gonna be taking a look at two of the MCU's most powerful reality warping heroes, each of which has a darker side to their personality that threatens to destroy all life as we know it. When we're done here, you'll know the full powers and capabilities of each, and then I'll tell you who wins. Let's get into it. Wanda Maximoff might be the most powerful character in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and also one of the most tragic. She's introduced in Age of Ultron as a Sokovian orphan who, alongside her twin brother Pietro, volunteers for Hydra experiments after their family is killed by a Stark Industries missile. The experiments unlock latent magical potential in Wanda, granting her telekinetic and mind-altering abilities. But what starts as a quest for vengeance slowly morphs into a search for identity, belonging, and peace, one that's constantly shattered by loss. Her brother dies, her love, the Vision, dies too, twice, and every time she tries to build something real, it crumbles under the weight of her own trauma. By WandaVision, she's no longer a side character. She's a grieving woman who takes over an entire town to live out a fabricated sitcom dream of domestic bliss, trapping civilians in the process. It's not heroic, but it is heartbreakingly human. This all leads her down a descent into evil. Tormented by the loss of her fictional children and tempted by the corrupting power of the Darkhold, she becomes the terrifying Scarlet Witch in Multiverse of Madness, ruthlessly slaughtering everyone who gets in the way of reuniting her family. As for her powers, Wanda doesn't play by the same rules as the other Avengers. Early on, she uses telekinesis to toss enemies like ragdolls, implants hallucinations in their minds, and manipulates their thoughts to control their actions, even sending the Hulk on a rampage. From there, she only grew more powerful. She can fly, generate force fields, launch energy blasts, and overpower heavy hitters like Vision and even Thanos. In Infinity War, she destroys the Mind Stone while holding off Thanos with her other hand, only to embarrass him further when they meet again in Endgame. During WandaVision, she learns the magical origins of her powers, how to create and manipulate hexes, and cast spells far more complex than the simple telekinetic ones she's used to. In Multiverse of Madness, she dreamwalks across realities, matches the cunning and spellcasting of Doctor Strange, and single-handedly annihilates the Illuminati, a team of superheroes from another timeline. Whether she's a hero, a villain, or something in between depends on where you catch her, but there is no question the Scarlet Witch is a force of nature. That said, Wanda is physically a normal human. She doesn't have any enhanced strength, speed, defenses, or reflexes. She does have some combat training during her time on the Avengers, so she's not completely defenseless. Basically, she's a glass cannon. Super powerful, but can be easily wiped off the board if you're fast enough. Case in point, we see her briefly get overpowered by super soldier Captain Carter, because she was caught off guard and unable to use her magic for defense. That said, she does have fairly significant healing powers. We saw her twist and contort her body to sneak into Camartage, and return to normal from the clearly broken bones and twisting ligaments. But this is really where she excels. Wanda can warp reality to an insane degree. Much like the Reality Stone, she effortlessly warps the bodies of both Reed Richards and Black Bolt, turning them into spaghetti and removing an orifice, respectively. In a direct clash with Maria Rambeau Captain Marvel, she was able to hold back the force of her energy bursts, but incapable of overpowering her outright. So Wanda just altered reality to remove her powers. This is why a supposedly indestructible Captain Marvel gets killed as a stone statue falls on top of her. In the same way that Wanda can manipulate other people's minds, she was able to completely mentally dominate alternate universe Wanda to control her body through dreamwalking, and also has fairly overwhelming mental defenses. When Professor X attempted to break her control, Scarlet Witch attacked and killed him in an instant inside that mental space. But this was a sneak attack, although we're talking about Professor X here. Most versions of Charles Xavier have pretty incredible telepathic abilities, and he got one shot. Now, as a final note, all of Wanda's feats in Multiverse of Madness are while she has the Darkhold, which not only taught her many of the spells she used, but boosted her powers by a considerable degree. It makes sense that if you could get the book away from her, she would lose a lot of her kick. Moving on, in case you missed it, the Marvel Cinematic Universe just introduced its most terrifying wildcard, Robert Reynolds, better known as the Sentry, better known as Bob. Bob is a government-engineered superhero, the product of Project Sentry, an Ox initiative to create a living superweapon originally deemed a failure because all of its subjects died, including Bob, until he didn't somehow. While Val was trying to use Sentry Project to create a government-sponsored Avenger, what she actually created was a ticking time bomb with godlike power and a fractured mind. Bob is a former abuse victim and meth addict, whose body adapted perfectly to the experimental serum, although his psyche couldn't handle what came next. After being discovered inexplicably alive by the Thunderbolts and rescued from Ox storage, Bob was manipulated by Val to become the hero she always wanted, the Sentry. But because Bob is manic-depressive, possibly bipolar, his powers wax and wane with his mood. As Sentry, he's riding a high, egotistical, impatient, a god complex given god powers. He defeats all of the Thunderbolts at once without breaking a sweat. But after he's betrayed by Val, his depressive side comes out, the Void. As the Void, he lives as a nihilistic force of nature, wiping out everything that moves, transporting every living soul to some sort of psychic dimension where they're forced to relive their traumas completely alone, exactly what Bob feels like in his darkest moments. Sentry's powers are never actually explained in the film, but we can figure out pretty much how they work. Off the rip, he has incredible strength and durability, completely bulletproof, stronger than every super soldier, shrugging off punches from Bucky and Red Guardian. He's super fast, probably the fastest we've seen a character move with combat speed in the MCU other than Quicksilver. But his main power is molecular telekinesis, which functions just like regular telekinesis most of the time, granting him flight and mental control over people and objects as he manipulates them through space. But it's clear that he can alter things on a much smaller, more fundamental scale, essentially as minor reality alteration. He boils a glass of water by concentrating on it, supercharges Bucky's vibranium arm until it nearly melts, which, by the way, puts him comfortably above Thor with Mjolnir before his Ragnarok aim, as he never did anything remotely close when he struck Cap's shield in the Avengers. Beyond strength, Bob can even alter his own body at will, seemingly subconsciously. This functions for little things like his clothes and the color of his hair, but also has brought him back from the dead at least twice. As the Void, he retains his invulnerability, basically completely unbothered as he's blasted with machine gun fire. This version of Bob seems like he might be intangible, a living shadow. He blinks people out of existence without even needing to touch them, and spreads his shadows all over New York in a matter of minutes. At no point in the film does anyone have any idea how to go about combating the Void. He's only defeated when the Thunderbolts enter the Voidscape and find Bob, convincing him that he's not alone and that things aren't hopeless. Sentry is busted by design. He easily folds US Agent's shield, which isn't vibranium, but judging by what he did to Bucky's arm, I'm pretty sure he could manage that if it was. He's able to track Ghost while she's phased, meaning he can see or at least sense into the quantum realm, and even grab her while intangible, forcing her back to this plane of reality, or reaching into the quantum realm himself. His flight speed is at least supersonic as he's compared to a ballistic missile, and he can just battlefield remove anyone without flight extremely easily. Just toss them into the air with telekinesis, or even let them fall back down to the ground. He did have a kill switch. We don't know how it works or what exactly it did to him, but it's gone now. That said, it did manage to kill him, only for him to void out and return a few minutes later. So, now that we know our combatants, how does this fight go down? I'll tell you right after a message from today's sponsor, me. Like and subscribe and comment, please. Join my channel membership to see videos early and get access to exclusive content no one else sees. And, that's it. Back to the fight. First things first, statements from both Val and Bob would imply that Sentry outscales all the strongest Avengers. Thor, Hulk, Vision, Doctor Strange, Captain Marvel, and yeah, even Scarlet Witch. And Val probably has information on the Westview incident due to her high-ranking government position and corporate espionage. Not to mention, we learned in the Miss Marvel series that the final battle from Endgame was filmed and is public knowledge. So this statement from Val is probably pretty well informed, although it's likely she doesn't know about Wanda's power increase with the Darkhold during the events of Multiverse of Madness. And this is important, it could just be hyperbole. The whole power of a million exploding suns thing seems to be a bit of marketing speak cooked up by the Ox team in order to pitch Sentry Project to the public. Bob does consider himself a god, but he's never actually met or interacted with Thor or any of the other Avengers. And like I said earlier, he's manic as the Sentry, riding a high. We can't just take his or Val's word here as evidence that he's stronger than Wanda, case closed. We will need a better way to compare the two. From what we've seen, Sentry outclasses Wanda pretty easily in physical strength. She's weaker than a super soldier, and he's stronger than at least 3 of them at once. Bob is much faster, speed comparable to Quicksilver, who is obviously much faster than Wanda, or else he would have been pretty useless as a part of that duo. They both have very strong telekinetic powers. We can't say for sure which is more powerful, although we've seen Wanda stalemate Captain Marvel and overpower Thanos, while Bob only ever used his telepathy to throw around some regular-sized people and some furniture. We can't say for certain, but it's plausible that she outscales his telekinesis. Sentry does have the durability advantage though. Bulletproof is better than regular human durability. Although it should be noted that Wanda can use magic to heal from her injuries while Sentry can't. At least we haven't seen him heal anything, because resurrection from the dead is a completely different ability. Which reminds me, I've said a few times that he's come back from the dead, but what does that mean? How can he manipulate his own molecules to heal if he's not even alive to try? Well, MCU Sentry seems to work just like the comics. He just is. Kill him, erase him, stop him from being born, he's so strong that it doesn't matter. It doesn't seem to make sense, but Sentry can't die. It's almost like Bob is some greater extra-dimensional being now, and we only ever see his avatar here that we can interact with. He can't be removed from reality because his perception of the world becomes fact. I don't want to apply comics feats to the MCU, but just take a look at Bob's clothes after they escaped the void. He literally changed into his childhood clothing and hair color. The Sentry outfit is completely gone, and to be clear, he was legit dead before that, deceased. It's clear that he has pretty high-level reality warping powers over himself through his molecular kinesis. So, Sentry outstats Scarlet Witch in pretty much every regard. It seems plausible that this fight is a speed blitz, Bob flying in and taking out Wanda before she can even perceive the attack. But that's assuming they're bloodlusted. Because Sentry is so egotistical, he's very likely to let Wanda prepare and come at him full power. And because we don't know if Wanda's energy blasts are actually stronger than the Sentry, because we can't scale him directly to Captain Marvel through anything other than shaky statements, she might actually be able to wipe him out with a well-timed, full-force blast of Scarlet energy. And if not, it's likely Wanda would just use the same strategy that worked on Maria Rambeau. Alter reality so that Sentry is powerless, then go for the kill. This takes us to our next point. It's important to note that we've only ever seen Bob use reality manipulation on himself, and only ever subconsciously, while Wanda's grip on magic is far more focused and in control. She directly manipulates her opponent's bodies as a fighting tactic, and she's quick on the draw. She took Black Bolt's mouth in a second. It wouldn't be tough for her to remove the powers of an egotistical, gloating Sentry. But of course, would it even matter? Would he stay dead after she killed him? At the end of the day, here's how it all pans out. Sentry has 2 very clear win conditions. 1, killing Wanda. It's likely he could do this with a speed blitz, and possible he could directly overpower her, although we can't really know if he's strong enough for that. His second win condition is that he voids out and traps Scarlet Witch within her own traumas. Wanda essentially only has 1 win condition. She could directly overpower Bob and kill him, or use her magic to remove his powers and then kill him, or manipulate his mind to get him to stop fighting. No matter what she does, afterwards, she would need to fight the void. It's not really fair, her boss battle has 2 phases, but that's how it plays out. Wanda can't just kill Bob or alter him into something that can't fight her, like a pile of Mr. Fantastic spaghetti, because Bob's existence is an immutable fact of reality. He will return. So it comes down to Wanda versus the void. Can she find a way to escape and contain it? She did escape the mirror dimension, but so did Spider-Man. It just involved a little math. That's not some impossible feat. When it comes to the void, the only way to escape that we've seen is to defeat your own traumas, escape, find Bob, and then help him get to an emotional state where the void goes away. Essentially, you need to appease Bob. And I'm not gonna mince words here, this is basically like if you designed a perfect hell for Scarlet Witch. Wanda has a million different traumas for the void to throw at her, and she hasn't dealt with any of them in a healthy way. If she's not overwhelmed emotionally by the whole experience, she's gonna have a really hard time escaping, since her horrible memories include swarms of Ultron drones, Thanos and his enormous army, and unlike the Thunderbolts, she doesn't have anyone in her life to help her deal with any of this emotional baggage. Even if we give her the benefit of the doubt that she'll be able to escape everything attacking her and find Bob, she is not equipped to make him feel any better. She doesn't have the personal skills for it. He'll already be on edge because she was just trying to kill him, and she only ever makes people worse when she manipulates their minds. Even the people of Westview, she held no ill will towards any of them and created nice, pretty lives for them to live out, but they were conscious the whole time, basically being tortured. If she tried to use her magic to calm his mind, it would just turn Bob into a puppet while his emotional state got worse. She would unironically make the void even stronger. So when we look at how all the different scenarios play out, Sentry has 2 different plausible win conditions while Scarlet Witch has 0. The winner is Sentry. But you know, none of this matters. I'm sure Robert Downey Jr. will show up in Doomsday and kill both of them while whispering, "I hate you 3000.
3,000? That's crazy.
Whatever. Stay frosty.